Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Brian Eugene Hawkins from Divine Appointment Worship Center, where I am the senior pastor here in the city of San Jacinto. I'm here with Lieutenant Chad BIANCO, who's running for the sheriff of Riverside County in this upcoming November 6, 2018 election. So I want to welcome you to the Mercy Seat, Lieutenant.
Thank you very much.
All right. So I'm excited to interview you. I thank you for reaching out and responding to my invitation. I actually had reached out to Lieutenant Chad BIANCO, and he responded very promptly, and let him know that I had wanted to interview him and put a face to what we're seeing so many billboards throughout the Riverside County. I live in the city of Hemet, which cross over from San Jacinto. Hemet, our church is in San Jacinto, so he's going to be representing this county, this city as well. Let's talk about you for a second, sir.
Sure.
But I want to thank you for the invitation and receiving and responding to it.
Of course, thank you.
All right. So let's talk about the Riverside County. What are some of the cities that, because a lot of people don't realize for years I thought Temecula was part of San Diego County, and I'm finding out that it's part of Riverside County. So what are some of the cities that are affected by this upcoming election?
Riverside County is large. I mean, it's much larger than probably a lot of people believe, and especially with the mountain range and you get into Palm Springs, some people don't realize that that's still Riverside County once you get past there, getting into the Desert Valley, into the Coachella Valley. So from the San Diego border, Temecula, to Corona, that kind of borders the Orange County line, and then it goes all across San Bernardino, and we go down through the desert, Beaumont, Banning, all the way out to Blythe. Okay. So we are all the way to the Arizona border from here. We border San Diego, which is on the other side of Temecula, the other side of Poway, down by the check station down there as you come over the hill into Temecula, and then kind of cut straight across, and we go up into the mountain areas of Owanga, Sage, Anza, all down through that valley. Then we border, by the time you get down a little bit, then you're touching San Diego. But all of that is ours. It's an unbelievably large county, bigger than most states, and 2.5 million people.
Wow, 2.5 million people, awesome. Okay, so the sheriff, what is the job description of the sheriff? I mean, I hear sheriff, in the terms of individuals in police cars, but you're running for the overall boss of the sheriff, the police department. Am I correct?
Yes. So the sheriff is the leader of the sheriff's department. So we've got about 4,000 employees, and so all of the deputy sheriffs that you see out driving in your cars patrolling the streets, those are all obviously a part of the sheriff's department. They're the line staff of the sheriff's department. And then as you go up in the ranks, the highest rank within our department is the sheriff. The sheriff is an elected official, unique from the rest of the agency. Everyone else is employed, and you promote up through the ranks. But the sheriff is an elected official, and elected. He's actually with the district attorney, the only two that are elected by the entire county. So the sheriff is basically the lead head law enforcement head of the county. So we have, within the sheriff's department, we're responsible for primarily patrol in the county areas, but then, which a county area would be like Val Vista of Hemet, the east side of Hemet, all through Saboba, up into the mountain areas, down toward Palm Desert. We go up a little piece of Moreno Valley, but we also have contract cities. So our contract city of San Jacinto is a police department of San Jacinto, but they contract with the sheriff's department, so they're all sheriff's deputies that work there. Okay. So our basic patrol function of handling calls for service, fighting crime, arresting the bad guys, those types of regular law enforcement issues. But then the sheriff also has the responsibility of maintaining the courts and maintaining our jails, and then he is also the public administrator of the Coroner's Bureau. So it's a big, broad job description, and it's primarily the lead elected official in the county.
Okay, so this November 6th, I'm pretty sure you're hoping for a favorable outcome.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So you're running for a sheriff. What are you hoping to accomplish if the people elect to put you in that position? And let's go back. Before I even ask what you hope to accomplish, why are you even running?
That's almost the same question.
Okay.
Why I'm running and what I hope to accomplish is basically the same thing.
Okay.
And ultimately, it's changing the culture of our department, changing the way we do business, changing the way we handle calls for service, changing the way we interact within the community. Primarily what I mean by that is historically as a department, we have been reactive in nature, where we drive around in our cars and we wait for you, the residents, to call 911 for some type of an emergency that you need help, and we respond and we help you. But we have never engaged in a mission or in a culture of trying to fight crime or prevent crime. We handle it after the fact, and then we just try and catch the person that committed the crime instead of stopping it before it happens. So primarily what my goal is, what my vision, my mission for Riverside County Sheriff's Department is to change into a community-oriented type of a policing philosophy. A lot of people have heard that word, but they don't really understand what it is, and it's not really an action. It's not, coffee with a cop or just an interaction with an individual officer. It's a philosophy. It's a way of conducting business, and it's a belief. And the belief is that that in order for us all to be successful, safe, law enforcement, lowering crime, those types of issues, we all have to be working together. So community-oriented policing is the law enforcement agency, us, the Sheriff's Department, working hand in hand with pastors of churches, with business owners, with community members, business owners, to figure out where our quality of life issues are and where they're lacking. And then if it's a law enforcement issue, then handling that before it becomes a problem. So if you, for instance, if a quality of life issue in your neighborhood happens to be the house down the street that is just not the type of people you just don't know what it is, if we can go figure that out and address it before it really becomes a drug house or a gang house or a chop shop, then we've handled that quality of life issue before it became crime. And that's the idea of real law enforcement trying to make a difference, trying to keep people safe, trying to lessen the chance of someone being a victim of a crime, rather than just coming back after the fact and taking a report.
So, what do you think that has kept this from happening? I mean, we're in 2018, and it doesn't seem like the community has the relationship with law enforcement that it sounds like you're hoping to accomplish. What do you think has been keeping this from being possible over the years?
Everything in life, I believe ultimately the simple answer is relationship. And I believe that in life we can be successful as an individual. You can work as hard as you can, and you can build whatever it is, what your success is. But there's always going to be trials. There's always going to be falls. And if you did not build your empire, your success around relationships, you're going to fall on your own. And if you have those relationships around you, then other people are there to hold you up when you go through those rough times. So you have a support system, basically. And I believe that in law enforcement, we have failed over the years in that relationship part. And we do suffer from a negative relationship, if you want to term it as that, with the public that we serve. We've gotten to a point where because of media a little bit, because of some actions that we do ourselves, we're not trusted anymore. We're not personable. We have the opinion from the public is that we're mean, mean cops and untrustworthy cops, those types of issues. And it's all because we're not engaging in conversation with anyone. We're not showing them that we're real people. And if you talk to the law enforcement wants to have a relationship with the community. The community wants to have a relationship with law enforcement, but nobody's stepping forward together to make that happen. So if you as a community member want to bridge that gap between law enforcement and the public, if you step forward to do that, but you're not getting anyone to step forward to meet you, then that relationship isn't really going to be built. It's going to be, if something does develop, it's going to be artificial because you're the only one a part of it.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this interview with you. As being a pastor and a leader in the community, I wanted to start that opportunity, create the relationship. As I said before we set up this interview, we're both putting a lot on the line because we're trying to do something that's really not being done.
Right.
and to hope that, maybe 50 years from now, this could be something that can, you never know, it could be 50 days from now, when is the election, under 60 days.
It's 57 days from
57 days.
But I don't know who's counting.
Nobody's counting 57 days, 6 hours and 23 minutes. Make sure.
That's right.
Make sure you get down there. So, I'm hearing what you're saying as far as building the relationship. Mm-hmm. I come from a predominantly African American community. I happen to be African American myself, which I hope you guys can see that.
I had no idea.
Had no idea. Didn't get profiled. Well, that's good. But and maybe there's a difference because I have a suit on and difference. But some individuals feel like they're being racially profiled and being targeted. What do you think the program and the way you're trying to create a relationship could help deter individuals from feeling that way?
It comes down to community involvement. I mean, we have to be involved with our community, and not just in a law enforcement aspect. Our officers have to be involved in the community, and what my goal is to encourage. Promotion in my line of work is, that's what you strive for, is you try to do a good job and you try and promote. And one of the key categories that will be required for promotion is community involvement. And it doesn't, and I'm not going to be specific on what that is, because I think there's all different kinds of community involvement that we have to have, whether it's you're involved with your church, or you're involved with your kid's school, or athletic programs, or even community programs. But you have to be involved, and I want to encourage the current district attorney has a program where he makes all of the attorneys that work for him, they're all involved in this program. Not all of them, but most of them are involved in a program reading with young men, and I believe it's called Real Men Read. But it's a great program where you're learning. Those kids are learning that law enforcement aspect is they're just a guy, and we need to build, whether it's an athletic relationship or a music relationship or it could be anything. All of us are unique, and we have our own talents that we could bond with somebody. And a mentor, we really are not going to change our populace until we change the kids. And then when the kids grow up into that, that's what they're going to know. And one of the things with you talk about the difference between the African American community and law enforcement. I look at look at 40 years ago when racism, I believe, was more prominent, and I look at my kids and they're only what they were brought up as, so they don't see that anymore. They see it on TV, and it's beat into us on TV, but they don't experience that in their lives with their friends, because that's not how they were brought up, and it's the parents' fault, or the grandparents' fault. And so I think if we change the kids and we change the way the kids believe and their perceptions, that's how it can't happen by December, but it can certainly happen by 2020 or 2025, or when we're grandpas and our kids and our grandkids are living a completely different life than what we did. And it all starts with us. So we have to change it somehow, and it's going to take two people or two groups of people that move toward making a difference. And there's lots of different issues. Relationships with the Indian tribes, and relationships with the African American community, relationship with our Hispanic community. There's a lot that are here illegally, and they're afraid of law enforcement. And we have to build those relationships so we don't have that communication, so we don't have those issues of mistrust. And we've got to trust one another. We've got to believe in one another, and that's what I'm hoping to be. Why can't we, as Riverside County, be the absolute best law enforcement relationship-wise with our community in the country? And why do we have to look at someone else for that model? It could be us.
And that's good. So now I'm going to be a little bit selfish, because I am the pastor in the city, one of the pastors in the city of JACINTO in Hemet. And I've only lived in this community for 3 years. I've met many other people that have lived here a lot longer, and they've seen the decline and a lot of positive things in the air, and a rise in the crime. What are some of the things, telling the Hemet and San Jacinto resident, and even Riverside? I like to say, so goes San Jacinto, so goes the rest of Riverside. But what could you help to give the people confidence in? I mean, the crime is going up. I mean, people are afraid to, go out, at night. I mean, I'm constantly hearing, when I pick up the newspaper and read in the news, someone has been, shot or, robbed, and, Florida Avenue isn't as, affluent as it used to be. What are some of the things that, you can do as far as being a sheriff coming in that can help, build up the confidence in the police department again?
Ultimately, changing the way we operate is what's going to make the difference. Crime in general is about opportunity. Criminals, whatever they may be, whether it doesn't matter what crime you want to pick. It's all based on opportunity. Somebody had the opportunity to commit that crime and they were able to do it. And then it progressed to, it became easier, it became, the opportunity was more available or different in some locations, so it moved to there. And so if, as law enforcement in a community, if we can eliminate that opportunity, if we can lessen the ease at which criminal behavior or the criminal element comes into our communities, then we can eliminate it. And it would be naive to say that we could eliminate crime, because there's always going to be a segment of the population that believes that your property is theirs, right, or that they can take from you, or they don't have to listen to any type of authority. So we'll always have crime, but we can try and eliminate the desire to commit it, the ease at which it can happen, and you can either eliminate it altogether from that particular area, or make it move somewhere else. And it's not that you want to switch it around and just move it from one spot to the next, but we can force it out of Riverside County. And the relationship that we build with the community, we have to, as law enforcement, I have to make the community completely aware and confident that is our mission, is to make your quality of life issues better and make your negative quality of life issues disappear. And so if we can work with you and you have to be comfortable knowing that if you're going to bring an issue up to us, that we are actually going to go out and make it better for you. And I think that that's where we have failed up to this point. And so even the community has become apathetic a little bit, in that they don't even want to report crime anymore, because they don't feel like we're going to do anything once they do report it. So we have to change that on ourselves, and we have to prove to the community that that's what we want to do. And that, again, it's not going to be an overnight thing, because we're going to have to prove ourselves. But the desire, the momentum that we can generate with the public, getting into the public, I think the general public wants it to happen. We in law enforcement want it to happen, and so I think it's going to be a relatively maybe not easy, but it's going to be a smooth transition into getting to that point.
So, from a pastor, what type of help would you need from us to make? I mean, I only have that portion of the community. So what would you need to help from us to be able to create this relationship?
Ultimately, I think the pastors of our churches, and regardless of denomination, it's churches in general. When you talk about morals, and you talk about ethics, and you talk about integrities, for the most part in our culture, those come from Christian values. The church relationship in our community, I mean, that's where we do right from, that's where we know right from wrong. That's what you do unto others as you have done unto you. And those biblical things that are passed on, someone may not know that that's where they came from, but that's where they're coming from. And I believe that churches are going to have to play a huge role in the success of law enforcement, in that the church community, when someone is involved in crime, or when they're involved in gangs, or they're involved in drugs, or whatever the case may be, that is their home, that is their family, that is their lifestyle. And so if we law enforcement arrest them and just release them back into that same environment, that's all they know. So I really am going to call on our religious community in Riverside County to assist in finding different directions for those people. Once once they found that path, even if they haven't been arrested yet, if we just contact them and they could have been arrested, but they didn't that particular night, we can refer them to you, or we can refer you to them, to where you can contact them, and we can possibly stop it before we actually have to arrest them and get them into the system, to where they're, we certainly don't want people becoming institutionalized in prison. But if we can utilize our churches and utilize our community members from our churches, I mean, ultimately we want to do good, and we want to volunteer. You're coming to a church, you want to support the church, you want to, whether it's money or your time. And this is one of the things that we can do is mentor. It doesn't even have to be kids. It can be anybody that's having a rough time.
Awesome. So I think we have a question from the audience.
Yes. Lieutenant, now Riverside County, very large county. I mean, we have cities alphabetically from Banning to Wildomar.
Yes.
And in this valley, in the Hemet San Jacinto, what the pastor brought up, this is his valley, it's twin cities. And everybody thinks their situation is unique, and I believe ours really is. We have a police department, the Hemet Police Department's been around for about 100 years. It has been voted to remain the Hemet Police Department. And there's been challenges to join the Sheriff's Department, and then we have our San Jacinto Sheriff's Department. The communication of those two departments, one is, what do you feel about that relationship? And what do you think changes we make to make it so we can serve the community better?
Sadly enough, and embarrassingly enough, coming from a law enforcement leader in the Hemet Valley, it's not good. Officer-wise, they have a very, very, very good relationship, and the ones that are on the streets working to help, they have a good relationship together. But administratively, the Hemet Police Department and the Riverside County Sheriff's Department do not see eye to eye. They do not communicate. They do not cooperate with each other. And embarrassing, I mean, it is embarrassing to say, it's our fault. It's the Sheriff's Department fault. We are the lead law enforcement agency of the county, and we should be going to all of our smaller police departments to offer any type of assistance that we can to make our communities better. Especially in this valley, you have the San Jacinto Police Department, which is a contract with the sheriff. You have the Val Vista Station, Hemet Station, which is the County Sheriff's Department, and then the city of Hemet kind of sandwiched in the middle with their police department. And I have met with Chief Webb, and he is not happy with the relationship. We at the Hemet Station are not happy with the relationship that our administration has caused. And we have vowed to each other, and we have promised each other that our goal is the safety and the security of this valley. And political issues aside, or personal beliefs aside, Chief Webb as the Hemet chief, and myself, if I'm fortunate enough to win this election as the head of the Sheriff's Department, we will work together to make sure that we are on the same page at everything we do, because city lines, criminals don't care about city lines in the road. They don't care about if they're in San Jacinto or Hemet. So we need to be working all together to make sure we're on the same page.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the audience that would like to ask? So let me ask you this question. November 6th, let's fast forward. November 6th, people are walking into the election precinct, and there's a list of names on there. I know your name is going to be on there. I know Sniff's name is going to be on there. What are you hoping people, when they walk into that booth and they have an opportunity to check your name or check the person you're running against, what would you like the people to know about you to give them confidence to put their trust in you and having you be the next sheriff of Riverside County?
It's a big question. That's a big question. Ultimately, I guess I'm 50 years old, and I've had a lot of different experiences in my life, and what gives me the most reward in my life is helping other people, and I believe that's why I picked this profession, I guess, or why this profession picked me. A lot of people say they can't be, they could never be a cop, or they could never go into law enforcement, and I think it was a natural personality fit for me, and that's why I love it. And I get, my mission and my goal is to make sure that every day I come to work, I'm able to help somebody. I want to make a difference. I don't want to come to work for a job. I don't want to come to work for some set anything that, agenda that I have to accomplish. I want to come to work every single day to make a difference, and to make a difference in as many people's lives as I possibly can. And that doesn't mean, it may be your elderly mother needs, something, just to be checked on, or it may need your, the neighbors next door. I want to impress upon my department the same feelings that I have for this job. And that's making a difference in the community, making a difference for individual people that make a difference in the community. So I guess, if I want to get personal, and if I want to get, I don't want it to sound rude, and I don't want it to be demeaning in any way toward the current sheriff. But what I can promise everybody is the reason why law enforcement is behind me and supporting me, and not the current sheriff, is they all know, and I really do believe that I care. And that is going to be the biggest difference in me as the sheriff of this department and the current administration, is I actually care not about myself. I care about the community. I care about the department. I care about the county. I care about our residents. I care about our cities. And I care about them more than myself. So I would sacrifice myself. I would, if whatever it is, politically or personally, if it's to help somebody else, that's my reward.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming out and taking this moment away from your campaign run. I really appreciate the time that you gave. Allowed me to get to know you a little bit personal. Hope the viewers, as they go into the booth, they can go in now with confidence, putting a face to the name that we're seeing all over the Riverside County. I know I've seen your sign all over the place, and do love a lot of the things that you're talking about, building a relationship. That's one of the things this ministry wants to do here. We say that we're not another church building, but a church building the community. And so we really want to be involved in the community. I've connected myself with a lot of different people, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to get to know you.
That's
because I
going
want
to
to
be
help
important.
change the narrative. Absolutely, absolutely. And down the road, it's easy saying a lot of these things up to the election, but day one, I still want to help create this relationship. I have tons of leaders here in the church and then in the community that we want to help do our part. And so, if you're willing to keep this relationship going, even after the election, we would love to have that open door relationship with you.
For sure, we're going to change Riverside County. We're going to change it for the better. I don't want to make make the campaign about change, but what I tell everyone that will listen, the only way to get something different than what we have is to make that change. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. So if you're not happy with the way things have been going lately, sticking with the same thing isn't going to help you. So you make the change. You get a little bit of fresh blood in there, a little bit, little different viewpoint, and you can make some quality changes that'll affect the community.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again, Lieutenant Chad Bianco. Look for his name on the ballot November 6th. Now you have a face of the name. Let's go out there and change Riverside and hopefully change all of California. So does California, so does the whole world. So thank you, Mr. Chad Bianco. It was a pleasure of mine, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.